Hey guys, Michael from Copper vs Glass, and today we're going to be talking about a massive benefit that Android has currently over iOS. Now if you look at some of my most recent streaming game videos on Android devices, you'll see that I've reviewed both Microsoft xCloud and also Google Stadia, and they've both been reviewed on Android, even though I have a perfectly good iOS device with my iPad Pro, which would look great with some streaming games and connecting an Xbox controller, but I haven't been able to play those games on my iPad currently. And that doesn't look to be changing anytime soon, as Apple has recently come out to basically say that any streaming service like Stadia or xCloud isn't going to be available on iOS because it doesn't meet the requirements for the App Store. Now that actually seems a little bit strange to me because Microsoft has recently been testing their xCloud service on iOS, but they recently came out with this statement. Unfortunately, we do not have a path to bring our version of cloud gaming with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to gamers on iOS via the App Store. And they were testing it, but the testing has now finished and it's not going to be coming out on iOS at all. Now the testing stopped towards the beginning of this month for August of 2020, so they have been testing it on iOS, and as far as I'm aware, they've been testing it both on the iPhone 11 and also the iPad Pro, both the last gen and the newer 2020 models, and it has been working fine. There hasn't, however, been any word on whether Google has been testing Stadia on iOS, and I'm pretty sure they're not going to be coming out with a statement anytime soon either, because of this statement from Apple, they're not going to be bringing Stadia to iOS either. And the main reason being is because of this statement from Apple. The App Store was created to be a safe and trusted place for customers to discover and download apps, and a great business opportunity for all developers. Before they go onto our App Store, all apps are reviewed against the same set of guidelines that are intended to protect customers and provide a fair level playing field to developers. Now what it basically comes down to is Apple is saying that they can't review every single game that is going to be on a streaming service. So on Google Stadia, for example, you've got the newest Doom Eternal game, and on Microsoft xCloud you've got the Game Pass, which has a ton of Microsoft and Xbox exclusive games, and they're saying that they can't actually test these games to make sure they are kind of what they are. Now that also seems a little bit strange to me because games, as you know, do get tested regularly by their own independent bodies, so they are going to be exactly what they say on the tin. So if you go onto Google Stadia, for example, Google knows that the Doom Eternal game that's on there is just going to be the standard Doom Eternal that you can get on any other platform. But for some reason, Apple doesn't really trust them. Apple also went on to say that our customers enjoy great apps and games from millions of developers, and gaming services can absolutely launch on the App Store as long as they follow the same set of guidelines applicable to all developers, including submitting games individually for review and appearing in the charts and search. Now what that basically means is if Google Stadia or Microsoft xCloud were to do this, you could go onto the App Store and search Doom, for example, and it would come up in the top charts. However, when you went to click on it, it would take you to one of the streaming services, not directly to the game. So that again is a little bit strange, because what that means is if Doom Eternal, for example, people really enjoy that game and it ranks really highly on the App Store, then when you click on it, it's going to take you to one of these streaming services. Now that's not necessarily a true reflection of the app that you're then going to download, which in some instances would be the Google Stadia app. Now if how the Google Stadia application actually ran on iOS wasn't great, then I'm not really sure why one of the games should be higher on the actual chart list, when what you're actually getting is the application itself, and the games do come separately. And like I mentioned beforehand, the actual games themselves do get rated individually, and Microsoft also added to their statement that all games available in the Xbox Game Pass catalogue are rated by content by independent industry rating bodies such as the ESRB and regional equivalents. We are committed to finding a path to bring the cloud gaming with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to the iOS platform, and we believe that the customers should be at the heart of the gaming experience, and gamers tell us where to play, connect and share anywhere, no matter where they are, which they agree with. And I actually agree too. I think that if you want to play a streaming service like Google Stadia or xCloud from Microsoft, you should be able to do that on pretty much any screen, because that's kind of what we were promised. Imagine playing the newest Halo game, which yes has now been delayed to 2021, but imagine playing that on your iPad Pro out and about with an Xbox controller attached. That would actually be a really good experience, considering the iPad Pro has such a nice display. Now, Apple did also say that you could then use a web browser, for example, but web browsers on mobile devices aren't necessarily great even at the best of times, so I can't imagine trying to use a web browser for Google Stadia or xCloud on an iPhone, for example, with the smaller screen, whereas something like the Android app has a dedicated mode where it basically fits in with the rest of your apps. Now, what I mean by that is it's made for a mobile device and it isn't really part of the web browsing experience. If you look at the Google Stadia app, for example, everything's very big, bold, huge buttons, and the same for xCloud, so it's just an easier experience on mobile, which again could come to iOS if Apple allowed it. You also have the issue where Apple takes the 30% cut for pretty much every app that appears on the App Store, so if you were to download Google Stadia for free, Apple wouldn't get any money, and then all of the money for the games you buy would go to Google themselves or Microsoft, which again I don't think Apple would be too happy with. And then lastly, you do have Apple Arcade. Now obviously this is made by Apple for iOS devices, and again that's maybe why they don't want some other streaming services getting in the way. With Apple Arcade you pay one monthly amount and you have access to hundreds of exclusive games for iOS, a ton of them have controller support, awesome graphics, and just in general they work really well with the iOS ecosystem, so maybe that's another reason why Apple don't want Google or Microsoft getting involved on their platform. But for me and my personal opinion, I just want to have streaming services everywhere. So that is now going to be a factor when you're going to be buying a mobile device. So if you do have an Xbox, for example, and you pay for the Xbox Game Pass, which is now going to be included with the xCloud service, you're then going to have to consider your next mobile device to be an Android phone that can actually use the service out and about to get the full advantage of the value that you're going to get there. Whereas if you're going to buy the newest iPhone, you're not going to be able to get that same experience, which I know a ton of people actually really want to have as streaming services for games increases in popularity. Google Stadia, yes, did have a rocky start, but I've done some videos on it beforehand, basically just saying how great a service it is, and I've also done some videos on the xCloud service from Microsoft, and they are both really good streaming services that if you're on iOS, you're just not going to get access to. And to be honest guys, that's probably not going to change anytime soon. However, if Apple does do a complete U-turn and change their opinion on this, then I will do an updated video to let you guys know. For the meantime, let me know in the comments section below what you think of this, whether you use an iOS device at the moment and want these streaming services, or if you use an Android device and you're using xCloud or Stadia, let me know your experience below in the comments. If you've got any questions or comments, let me know on Twitter at copper_glass, or in the comments section down below, where you will also find that like button if you enjoyed this video. If you're not already subscribed, now's a great time to do so, and also turn on that notification bell so you're notified anytime I post a new video here on the channel. I'm Michael from Copper vs Glass, thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.